Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to another exciting episode of Inside ProCents. Today, I am joined by a great friend and just a great man, Aaron Ellis. Aaron has had the privilege of speaking at the ProCents event for the last 3 years, and he has become a crowd favorite. But this is the first time we've actually gotten the chance to have Aaron on Inside ProCents. So, Aaron, if you can give us a little bit more about yourself, what you got going on, and just what we can expect.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure to be acquainted with you and friends with you for the last handful of years since you saw me speak at another event, and then I love that I've come to the ProCents events. I look forward to it every year, so it's been awesome. What am I doing now? People ask me that constantly because it seems like I'm doing a lot of things or constantly shifting, and I don't see it that way. I just kind of see myself following my flow and what comes at me next. And when I really look at what I'm doing now, I'm actually kind of returning to what I was doing a little over a decade ago. I somewhat left music behind about 10, 12 years ago. There was a lot of reasons why. There was a pretty unhealthy relationship for a decade of my life that kept me somewhat isolated. And I'm coming back out of that shell as a different person with new insights into myself. And I have a new album coming out and a book coming out, tour coming next year. And I think the biggest thing that's going to be different out of this tour, because I've toured since I was a kid, is this is going to be about community building and about relationships. So it's not just going to be rock concerts. It will be rock concerts, but it's also going to be 1 to 2 day events where there's speakers, authors there, coaches there, and really helping empower people and build community across the country. So
I'd love to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and talk about just the building of community and a network of people, and like I know a little of your backstory because we've been friends for several years now. But you've spoken at our event, and you alluded to speaking at an event that allowed us to be acquaintances and get to build our relationship. But within the music, talk about some of the people that you've got to work and perform with and that have led you into, I think you said it very well several years ago, that your passion and your drive is to inspire others. But, I know there's some people that you partied with in the past, and you alluded to one of them, actually both of them this past year or this past event, from your time in Seattle,
Mm-hmm.
and then also your engagement at speaking at a large Fortune, I don't know, was it Fortune 500 company, but maybe elaborate on that a little bit.
I think I know the relationship you're talking about and stuff, but one of my biggest, greatest mentors, friends growing up was Paul Allen. So he was the co-founder of Microsoft. And I was just talking to somebody else about this last week. And he, my father knew him. My father still knows his sister. Paul, of course, is gone now, but he became a great mentor of mine. And what I mean by that, yes, he formally mentored me the year up to his death. But prior to that, starting at about age 13, he was known as a guy with a huge house, studio in his house, stage in his house. He would bring over all the Seattle musicians for Christmas parties. He played guitar. He had a yacht with a studio in it. So I knew him as this wealthy dude with a lot of cool stuff, right? And because I never really drank or got into any kind of drugs, which I had them all before me in the music industry, but I never really wanted to take that path, I would be sitting in his kitchen with millionaires and billionaires at like 11 o'clock at night during the parties because everybody was drinking and having a good time. And I was in there listening to these people with my leather jacket and my long hair, and learning from back then. And there's lessons that I apply now in my life that I remember from those first sitting there and being kind of a fly on the wall in those meetings. So my dad was also very entrepreneurial. And I've been speaking, like we talk about my speaking engagements. One of my first official, professional speaking engagements was with eBay, which was in basically outside of Bellevue, outside of Seattle. And it was Paul Allen got me that gig. And I was in my teens, right? Long blonde hair, leather jacket, walking into this corporate environment. And I don't know if I shared this at the ProCents event, but I'm really big on being authentic and just being who you are. And I think if you show up as who you are, unapologetic, right? People accept you. When you try to hide things or try to be somebody else, for some reason, you rub them the wrong way. So how this applied at that event is I sat there in the office of the president of eBay where he was interviewing me to be able to come in and do basically a half day to a day seminar for eBay. And he had his checked list and he's like, so Mr. Ellis, what's your highest level of education? And I said, oh, I never went to college. I learned a lot on the streets and stuff. You could say I went to night schools. I said stuff like that, right? And he's like, I mean, firmly, I'm like, oh, I dropped out of high school. And I literally just said things that when basically I would have not gotten the gig. Everybody's like, you say that, you're never going to get the gig. Blah, 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 blah. But he ended up telling me I got the gig for two reasons. One, because Paul's recommendation. Relationships has been everything for my success. Two, because he said, I had to see what the heck you were going to say. I just wanted to know, right? So I have shown up unapologetically my whole life. And that's what's got me where I'm at, you could say, if we talk about relationships, my relationship to myself has been the ongoing, consistent, deep dive that I do, which helps me interact with others and relate to others and other things. So yeah, Paul did a lot for my everything in my life, music, everything in my life. Also, other great mentors like Wayne Dyer was a good friend of mine. He was a author in the self-help movement, where he was much into the spirituality and stuff. I learned a lot from him, and he brought me out of my shell a lot. He taught me to he taught me to meet people where they're at and connect with them a little bit better, because I'm kind of out there in the clouds the way I do things and stuff, and he kind of helped ground me so I could meet people who thought more analytically and intellectually than I do.
Yeah. Well, I love to hear that. And for those that are watching this here, I want you to take away something, be authentic. At ProCents, we're here bringing together people from the trades. This past year, we had people from the IT, cybersecurity space, AI. So with those things, we have a lot of different people coming in with a lot of different perspectives. And with those perspectives, it allows people to show up and just be authentic and not try to be, hey, I know everything about this here. You can be a conversational expert, but you also have to be willing to shut your mouth and just learn. And I think that's one thing that we can take away is, I mean, you were authentic, but you didn't show up and be like, hey, I'm the greatest.
Right. Yeah. The other thing I would share about my personal experience with ProCents is I'm not necessarily in the industry of what ProCents, the majority of the members of ProCents are, but I've spoken in every industry out there. The difference is I come in there, I was thinking about this after this last event. If I needed anything in an industry, I already know all the people. I don't necessarily know what they do because I don't have it top of mind when I'm there, but I know the relationships that cultivated and the trust that I'll trust that person. Like whether I'd be like, Matt, who does this? And I would know who you're talking about because we established a relationship.
Well, and that's the thing. You have to be willing to show up and have a childlike curiosity to learn, but also a childlike curiosity of, like, I have young children, you have young children, but they also make friends wherever they're at. Like, they don't see black, white, or anything that may divide people. They're just like, they're playing with this. I like playing with that. Let's play, and that is something that we can take forward. And like, I love the very first year that you were there. I had some people talk to me like, so he's one of the speakers? I was like, yeah. And you had your nails painted. You just had done something with your daughter. You're wearing your flip-flops. And then before you spoke, you took your flip-flops off because you wanted to be grounded. Now, we were inside and you weren't on the grass, but you wanted to be grounded so you could connect. And I remember that year you gave a story about, I think, Chris Cornell, and you performed that song, Maybe.
Far Behind.
Far Behind.
Yeah.
But I think with that, there's a lot of, what we can take forward as professionals and just wanting to grow. But, sometimes we grow out of phases of maybe childlike curiosity. But if you're still curious to be a learner, a lifelong learner, I think there's still that, but just how you apply stuff is maybe a difference. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. First thought that came to mind is the whole childlike aspect. Like, I don't know if you've been this way, Matt, or not, but I know myself as well as other parents when I've taken the kids to the park, you'll hear parents say this. I've said, hey, look at all the friends. Go play with the friends. And they don't know these kids at all. They've never met them. We're always like, look at all the friends. I'm like, could you imagine if that's how we walked into boardrooms these days? Oh, look at all the friends. You know what I mean? Rather than adversaries. If we actually lived that in our adult lives the way we teach our children, right? So I think that's an important aspect to look at. But again, you're pointing at relationships with me, like the Chris Cornell aspect was a good friend of mine, but that was a relationship with myself we'll start with. And don't get me wrong, anybody listening, I'm not advocating children skipping school. And if my daughter did what I'm about to share, I would probably freak out. When I was 9 years old, I jumped the fence during recess, took the local bus to the mall and bought Van Halen 1984. And at that day, I met Andrew Wood, who was the singer of Mother Love Bone, which is what that song is about, Far Behind. So the relationship started when I was 9 for that, right? And then it turned into, I think, just had this conversation. It's so cool how the synchronicity in the conversations. And this isn't bragging, but somebody said, well, when was the first time you made your first million? I said, before I was 18 years old. Like, how is that possible? I'm like, well, it's because I got involved in these Seattle bands. I co-wrote these songs, had 3 gold platinum albums before I was 18, right? But that relationship started when I was 9. Follow me? I showed up. I was authentically me. Yes, that included skipping school and jumping the fence at that time in my life, right? Again, not advocating that.
Yeah, let's say for the kids who are watching, don't do that.
But I wanted the album and I went and got it. But it was so much more, and it's become so much more in my life. You know, it paved the way for a lot of my music career when it comes down to it. So I think, I don't remember what your question exactly was, but I don't remember what it exactly was.
I think that encapsulates it a lot, because I mean, is it a question or is it more of a conversation? And that's what, I want people to show up at our events and be participants, take part in it for the conversation. You may not always remember the question that was posed, but if you can say, hey, as a friend, I got the first part, but I didn't get the second part. Can you rephrase that so I can, answer your question? Because we all want to meet people where they're at. And I think that's the nice thing about any relationship, is meeting people where they're at. And just, again, going back to what you originally said, being authentic, and children are authentic. And I love what you said, showing up on the playground. Hey, look at all of our friends. And, in the business world, it's competition. It's, hey, are you trying to overtake this person for a management position, whatever it may be. But is it really that? Or are you really just trying to elevate yourself without taking someone down a notch? There is a way to move through life and get better at things that we all love and do, by not having to take someone down a peg just to move up a peg. There's a way that we can all elevate. And we've heard the phrase, and I think I said it on the last episode of Inside ProCents, is a rising tide will lift all boats. Yeah. So how can we be that rising tide that helps elevate people where they're at? And again, you're not from the industry, but you have helped inspire people to find new ways to look at the problems that are in front of them, because we're all faced with very hard and difficult problems, whether it be HR, payroll, operational stuff, inventory. But if you focus on the problem, you're never going to see the solution.
Right.
Because I can't remember exactly how it is, but you can't see the trees because of the forest, or you can't see the forest. Yeah. And I think that's a lot of what people go through in life, is they get stuck in a rut. And I love how you said you made your first million before you were 18. And like, we're in a YouTube world right now where there are people making millions of dollars on YouTube, and they're less than 18, but they're being authentic. They're just being creative, and they're not afraid of failing. I think so much in a corporate world is failure has been something that people are afraid of. And you've talked about it in the past, and it's one of the things I love, and I still resonate with on probably a weekly basis. But you talk about the alphabet and how words and how they apply. You've got 5 characters that make up a word, but is it really that word, or is it how people interpret it, because everyone comes from a different perspective. And that's one of the things that I've cherished through our relationship, and one of the nuggets of, just knowledge I've gained. But is that something you would mind sharing? You talk about how the language is.
Yeah, we're talking about, like, one of the things I always say is it's not what we do, it's how we show up and flow through what we do. And words are no different. So it's how we're showing up and flowing through that word. And I'll give you some examples, because words are literally, we got, for English, for this reference, 26 letters. We grab a handful of those letters, we put air behind it, and we have a word, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the word. The word is the meaning and the essence that we infuse into that word, which is usually applied from our patterns and our programs, our upbringing, right? So if we were, I always like to use the example of I'm doing the best I can. Most people, when you hear that statement, I'm doing the best I can, it's usually very heavy. They're usually they're feeling defensive and wanting to justify, like, I'm doing the best I can. They want comfort, right? But what if you walked around saying, I'm doing the best I can? Just changing the flow of how you're showing up and flowing through those words brings a completely different meaning to the words, right? So you can have one word that, depending on how you say it. Another great example is, try this at home, folks, with your pet. Tell your dog that they're stupid and ugly. Look at you, dumb little doggy. And they're like, yes, I am. They'll be so excited. So you can say things that are perceivably perceivably wrong, bad, right? But the tone and the way you show up and flow through them changes the way they're received. Everything in life is that way. So when you're speaking to people, it has to do with our tone. It really has to do with our upbringing and our programming and our belief structures, if you want to get deep behind it. But ultimately, it's not the words we use, it's how we're showing up and flowing through them that's creating the result on how somebody's receiving us, perceiving us, whether we're cultivating the relationship or hurting it, I guess you could say, harming the relationship.
Yeah. Well, and there are so many words that we might use in our group of friends. Like, I've got a group chat, and for anybody that's hearing a buzz or beep, I apologize. It's a group chat that's coming through the audio, but it's friends of ours. We're talking about a golf trip. And I guarantee if you were to look at this golf trip, you're like, man, these guys hate each other because we're always ragging on each other. But these are the guys I'm going to go to battle with. And I can say each one of these guys, or my 2 a.m. phone call. If I'm in trouble at 2 a.m., who am I going to call? Here you go. It's those same guys. But in business, if we were to, say that, people are like, oh, this person's not professional. They're not, not showing up, and we can't rely on them. But it's context, and how you show up and flow, or context, how you look at things, what lens of life that you've come through. Because if you've come from a place where a lot of those words have been used in a negative connotation, they bear on you, and they're going to put more weight or more anxiety on you as you move forward. But if those were words that, were said jokingly and in good humor, as you talked about stupid and stuff there, you're like, they don't have that same weight. And that's a lot of problems with people, and how they just attend different events, or how they can become so defensive so quickly without really taking the meaning of it to heart and saying, oh yeah, they're not meaning to harm me, they're meaning to help me. But so many people, they fall in that victim mentality. And if you're not showing up and flowing through things, you're going to be a victim of your own confines of work, life, business, and however that is, because you built a wall around you can't see a way out. And you think when people are critical, it's going to keep you in that spot.
You mind if I dive a little deeper on this? Because I think it's
I'd love to.
So what you're really speaking towards is the fact that we don't see life as it is, we see it as we are. And what I mean by that is we have lenses, we have filters that we see through from our programming, from our upbringing, whatever it is. And I'm not putting good, bad, right, or wrong labels on this. I'm just saying that we have clouded our perception to some ways, but we've also actually cleared our perception in other ways, right? So what happens is, on a biological level, if people want to start learning about this, like, well, I wonder what words trigger me and which ones don't. But remember, trigger is not a negative word. So every word triggers you one of two ways. It either makes you close and want to reject and move away from, or it makes you open. So your central nervous system literally will be triggered and will react within your body based on just a word, because of how you've heard that word before. how it's been presented to you, whether it was in a negative way or a positive way, whether it made you joyous or upset. So a lot of times when people aren't aware of that, they literally steer away from and stay away from the things that they should be driving towards just because of a past program.
Yeah.
And I always say that this is one way to look at it. The more something bothers you, the harder it is, the more painful it feels, the more past residue of programs and patterns is at the surface ready to release. Typically, though, we want to get away from that stuff. But I would say, your fears, they're going to be there anyway. Why not run through them with momentum? Why not as a signpost on you to go this way, not to go away from it? Yeah. And that's where the freedom is behind it. And when you get to that point where you can be totally neutral, then you're able to meet people where they're at completely because you met yourself where you're at, meaning becoming aware of your patterns and your programs and learn how you're seeing the world as you are rather than the way it is.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's, you've got to get past the perspective and realize that you're either open or closed. And how you do that. And it kind of reminds me of a metaphor I've heard. And if I get the species wrong, I do apologize for anybody who's going to fact check me. But when cows, like just regular cows, feel a storm coming on, they lay down.
Yep.
And they wait for the storm to pass over them. But buffalo, when that same storm is approaching, they start walking towards it. So the storm's moving towards them. They're walking towards it. That means the storm is going to have less time and effect on them because they're moving towards it. So again, some people would say they're a very similar species. I would kind of agree on that. But how you show up and just move through it, and like you said, are you going to move through it? Just keep your, not keep your head down, but keep your eyes up and just keep blazing your path, being authentic to who you are and saying, yes, this is allowing me a growth opportunity. It's not hurting me. It's allowing me to get better for the next conversation I have. And I think that's what we're all trying to do is get better. And I think you have been a remarkable catalyst in that for the people that have met you and at the previous events that you've spoken at, or even at the ProCents events, you've been that catalyst to allow people to see that perspective and just kind of change the optics of the lens that they're looking through.
Yeah. I love doing that. I love shaking things up. And making people feel confused for a minute and then helping them see clarity.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Snow globes are a perfect example of that. I mean, if they're just sitting there and they haven't been touched in years, I mean, it's pretty crystal clear. But you pick it up and you want to see the beauty of the snow. You shake it and you're like, it's cloudy. I can't really see. But then all of a sudden things start to become clearer and the optics are a lot better. But you're enjoying everything that snow globe was made for. You're seeing the skyscraper, whatever picture it may be, but you're also getting the imagery of snow. And a lot of people enjoy that imagery unless you've been in it. But again, how you show up and flow through it, and what circumstance you've been caught in, because everyone has a different perspective of what that is.
So we should allow life to shake us up like a snow
Absolutely.
globe, so we can see the beauty.
Well, I'm going to say allow life to shake you up because I feel like life is shaking me up all the time. And I think you feel that same way, but it's not a place that we find stress or anxiety. It's a place where we find our peace.
Yeah.
You talked about it earlier. It's like you're always working on a variety of different things. I mean, I won't get into all the different things that you've done with PPE and other technologies or other businesses that you've helped success or find success. I'll let you talk about that if you wanted to. But it's one of those things where, like for me, ProCents is a vehicle in which I come to help people and try to be a catalyst for change by bringing business professionals together. And that vision has gotten more vast because it's gone from the trades to different optics of looking at, CPAs, lawyers, AI companies, cybersecurity companies, IT companies, because they all have a way to help one another. And I might be able to see it. And I said this at our past event is I can see how your businesses should work together, but y'all have to see it, because if you see it, you're going to take action. If I see it and recommend it, you're probably not going to take action. And that's by just, what ProCents is all about, is creating an opportunity, creating an environment where people can come and say, we want to be shaken up a little bit. We want to change the lenses so we can see things going from a rose colored glasses to maybe more of a violet color, and just get through whatever may be laying in front of us as an obstacle and say, all right, well, it's not an obstacle. It's an opportunity for me to make that a building block. Because if it's sitting in front of you, you can pick it up, make a wall out of it. You can make it something that can help you grow your business and grow your relationships.
Yeah. I always think about that, like stepping stones. Like the bigger the boulder, the better the view.
Absolutely. I love that. I absolutely love that. Well, Aaron, I know you're gearing up for a tour. You've got putting the final touches on your book. But if people want to get in touch with you, is there a way that is best to get in touch with Aaron if they want to engage with you, maybe to come speak at their event, or to get figure out how to pre-order a copy of the new album or the book?
Sure. Everything online for me is Aaron Ellis Official. So my website is aaronellisofficial.com. All of my social handles are Aaron Ellis Official. I am happy to be reached out to. I do answer all my own messages. I bring that up because I have had people manage my social media, but I don't let them manage my private messages. That is me when you're talking to me. But yeah, whether it's getting up to speed with what's coming with the album, the tour, the book, or having me come have a speaking engagement, do a half-day seminar, whatnot, you can reach me through my website. It's that easy.
Well, I love it.
Directly to me.
Well, hey, for those that are watching and you're looking to change your view, get shaken up a little bit, Aaron's the guy. He's going to do that for you in spades. So I strongly endorse anything Aaron does. He does have some music out on LinkedIn and Facebook, so go check it out. It's a beautiful songs. But also, Aaron has already learned about the next event, the ProCents 4th annual show this year at in 2026 at the Rosen Hotel in Orlando, Florida. So he's going to be there. We'll figure it out, but he says he might play some music for us off his new album. So if you're interested in attending that, please go to procents.com/events to get more details on that. Because I can say Aaron will be there, and he's going to bring a lot of value to whoever's there and whoever's just looking to reach out to him.
Yeah, I don't know if you mind me adding this on, Matt, but yeah, I'm looking to that event, as well as I will be on tour, so my whole band will be with me. I think it would be great for us to, you and I work it out. We put together an evening show for everybody, and the storytelling type shows where I'm talking about the songs, those usually people love those. It's teaching everything you and I just talked about. I am speaking about it from stage with the entire audience in music form.
Yeah.
So
we'll work with the hotel on that. I know we've got the space for it, so I'm very excited. So just a little teaser for those that been sitting on the sidelines about should I go, should I not go? Here's a perfect reason to show up. But Aaron, I want to say thank you so much for your time. Most of all, thank you for your friendship and everything that you've done for me and my family. I want to wish you a happy holidays, a Merry Christmas, since we are recording just a couple days before Christmas, and a Happy New Year's.
Back at you, Matt. Everything you just said in spades.
All right. Well, as we like to try to do with all the closing of our shows, ProCents is just a little bit different. We always want to close ProCents and do it right. And to all of our current and future members, remember the success begins with consistency. And at ProCents, we believe in the power of connection. So be consistent with your building of your network and reaching out and establishing a long-lasting relationship. Thank you again for joining us on this episode of Inside ProCents, and we'll see you next time.